So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees. It could be you and your family, forced from your home and your histories.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
Good morning, KCAA listeners, and good afternoon and good evening to those listening to us on the live stream link. We are delighted. We are absolutely delighted to have you with us today. Well, I faced another day of traffic driving into the station today from Los Angeles to San Bernardino, and one thing that I came to realize is that on the weekends, Caltrans is actually conducting repairs of the roads. So the lanes are actually reduced on the freeways from your normal 4 to 5 lanes to actually 2 lanes. So the lanes are reduced, and so the traffic is the flow of traffic is reduced. We were driving about 10 miles per hour, and I actually don't tell anyone, but I actually went into the carpool lane. Now, do you know? Don't tell anyone. I had to. I was stressed out. Listen, do you know the movie Lars and the Real Girl? I feel like I'm Kathleen and the passenger, because Lars got a blow-up doll to be his girlfriend. I'm going to get a blow-up doll to be my passenger so that I can drive in the carpool lane without having to face the possibility of getting an exorbitant ticket for violating that law. Talk about stressful. Is very stressful. But what is more stressful than driving in traffic? What is more stressful than actually thinking you're going to get a ticket if you don't have a blow-up doll as your passenger? What is more stressful is living under Israeli occupation, what the Palestinians are doing. And so today on our show, Palestine Today, we are going to focus on the lives of Palestinians. In fact, we're going to focus on refugees and Palestinians in the diaspora. And also we have an interview with a Palestinian in the West Bank. Harry has something special that he's created for us, and I think it's dealing with the refugees in the Palestinian refugees in the West. So good morning, Harry.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. Nice to be back on with you, Kathleen.
And also I want to say that it's my fault I didn't mention to people that last Sunday was daylight savings time, so that changed everything. And that's my fault. I didn't even realize it. So I hope there won't be any snafus, but if there are snafus, we'll just move forward. We'll play it by ear.
We'll be as steadfast as the Palestinians, hopefully. Sounds
good. Well, you sound a little tired, Harry. I think we caught you at, with... I think because I didn't say, we had daylight savings, and I take full responsibility. It's my fault. But I'm glad you're with me, and I'm glad everyone who's listening is with me today. And I just want to mention something in this segment, because today, March 16th, marks the 10th anniversary of Rachel Corrie's death. I don't know how many people are familiar with her, but Rachel Corrie was an American college student studying art at Evergreen State in Olympia, Washington. And she became involved with the International Solidarity Movement, which is a Palestinian-led group of international activists dedicated to protesting Israeli human rights abuses, including the destruction of Palestinian homes using nonviolent direct action. And in late January 2003, amidst the violence and repression of the Second Palestinian Uprising against Israel's then more than 35-year military occupation, Rachel Corrie traveled to the occupied territories as a volunteer with the International Solidarity Movement. On January 27th, 2003, Rachel entered Gaza through the Israeli-controlled Erez crossing and traveled to the southern town of Rafah. Rafah is situated along the border with Egypt, and large swaths of homes in Rafah were targeted for destruction by Israel under the pretext of creating a security belt. Actually, between 2000 and 2004, the Israeli army destroyed more than 2,500 Palestinian homes in Gaza, almost two-thirds of them in Rafah. And if you'd like to see a report on the demolitions that were going on at that time in the Gaza area, you can go to the Human Rights Watch and their report, Raising Rafah, Mass Home Demolitions in the Gaza Strip. So on this date, March 16th in 2003, Rachel and a group of 7 other American and British ISM volunteers dressed in fluorescent orange vests and using a bullhorn to make their presence known to Israeli soldiers set off to attempt to prevent the destruction of Palestinian homes in the so-called Philadelphia corridor of Rafah along the border with Egypt. Late in the afternoon, after several hours of confronting soldiers who were using 2 60-ton armored Caterpillar D9 weaponized bulldozers to destroy homes, Rachel slipped while standing on a mound of earth in front of one of the bulldozers and was run over. Severely injured, she was taken to a hospital by ambulance where she was declared dead. Rachel's death was the first in a string of deadly incidents involving ISM members and the Israeli army. According to fellow ISM volunteers and eyewitnesses, her death was intentional. The bulldozer ran over her intentionally. Tom Dale, a British citizen who now works as a journalist in Egypt, said the bulldozer went towards her very slowly. She was fully in clear view, straight in front of them. Unfortunately, she couldn't keep her grip there, and she started to slip down. You could see she was in serious trouble. There was panic in her face, and as she was turning around, all the activists there were screaming, running towards the bulldozer, trying to get them to stop, but they just kept on going. Another eyewitness, an ISM volunteer, Richard Purcell, says, quote, the driver cannot have failed to see her. As the blade pushed the pile, the earth rose up. Rachel slid down the pile. It looks as if her foot got caught. The driver didn't slow down. He just ran over her. Then he reversed the bulldozer and ran over her back again. Less than a month after Rachel was killed, the Israeli military ruled her death an accident in a report that was sharply criticized by many human rights groups, particularly Human Rights Watch, and also Amnesty International issued a statement. The response of the United States government, well, under the administration of President George Bush, although he expressed regret over Rachel's death, George Bush, his administration, declined to conduct its own investigation, despite the fact that a year after Rachel was killed, Lawrence Wilkerson, Chief of Staff to then Secretary of State Colin Powell, wrote a letter to the Corrie stating that without equivocation, the Israeli military investigation had been insufficient. Also, Representative Brian Baird from Rachel's home state of Washington attempted unsuccessfully to launch a congressional investigation. Also, I would like to mention that Rachel's family, her parents, brought a lawsuit against the against Israel, and they were not successful in their lawsuit. Let me see. On August 28th, 2012, the judge overseeing the case ruled that Rachel's death was a regrettable accident, and that the Israeli government bore no responsibility for it. So
shame on Israel, shame on Caterpillar, shame on the United States government.
Exactly, shame. So what we've witnessed here is more of the same. We're seeing more of the same. Naturally, Israel, as with
I think that
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think that there is some enormous significance to the case of Rachel Corrie in the sense that this is one of actually a handful of cases of an international being targeted resisting in a non-violent way, basically the oppression of Palestinians. And speaking to Palestinians today about this, and in fact they had various vigils around Palestine, the occupied territories, including in Rafah, where she was killed today. And it's of enormous significance that to them a foreigner would go and would care and would even end up sacrificing their life for someone else's cause, so to speak. I mean, to an extent, it isn't someone else's cause, because injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. But it is of enormous significance. And as you said, it falls into the context of other Western, including British, media and campaigning personnel in the occupied territories being killed or severely injured as a result of Israeli force. But I think it sends such a strong message to people, a bit like the Mavi Marmara massacre of May 2010, that Israel is willing to do this to foreigners. So, my God, what must it be doing to the Palestinians? And I think, therefore, it has a really important effect, actually, to be honest, in this context, in affecting how Westerners see Israel and its treatment of not just its neighbors, but anyone that opposes its regime.
Yes, I think that's important to stress that Rachel Corrie was an American citizen. The Turkish American on the Mavi Marmara was an American citizen. So if they treat American citizens this way, you can imagine how they treat Palestinians. That's the point, yes. I agree with you.
It's interesting. One of the details that came out from the civil court case that the Rachel Corrie's parents took in Israel, one episode of that legal avenue that they took up inside Israel, it came out at one point that one of the, I believe it was, excuse me, the word has evaded me, one of the witnesses on the stand of the court, so to speak, or no, not an eyewitness exactly. He was the man responsible for writing the protocol that Israeli bulldozing soldiers were meant to follow. And he said, well, actually, the soldier followed the protocol. In other words, the Israeli bulldozing protocol, certainly at that time, if not now, if you like, facilitated the reckless killing of an international trying to non-violently resist the destruction of this home. So I think that sends a very, very clear message that Israel's standards are beyond the pale for what most of the world would accept.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this show is going to be dedicated to the memory and to the courage of Rachel Corrie. I just wanted to give that.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this show is...
In fact, people can go to Rachel Corrie Foundation, where, to an extent, her memory and message lives on. It's rachelcorriefoundation.org, which is run, certainly, at least by her parents, who have really not given up in any way their battle for some semblance of justice about what happened to their daughter.
Mm-hmm. And there's even a play, yes, I think the name of the play is My Name is Rachel, that there have been many memorials.
Yeah.
Okay. So this show today, Palestine Today, is devoted and dedicated to Rachel Corrie's memory, a brave young American who lost her life in Israel, trying to, or should I say she lost her life in Gaza, in Palestine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a recent episode in the tragedy of the Israel-Palestine conflict, and for me it's really important to keep in mind and to try and bring to people's attention the fact that this started in one reading of history. It started 65 years ago proper with the catastrophe in 1947, 1948, when Israel was created. And today around the world there are over 6 million Palestinian refugees essentially living in exile. Their right of return today is breached. Israel prevents them from returning. It's one of, if not the largest collective of refugees in the world, scattered across the globe. Now, under the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 194 and also under Article 13 of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, there is a right of return for these 6 million refugees to go back to their homes, or the homes of their forefathers, so to speak, which in many cases is now inside the state of Israel. And so this is one of the, if you like, most thorny or contentious background and actual issues of the Israel-Palestine conflict. And I wanted to have a little look into this today. So I spoke to two Palestinians living in the diaspora, both of them in fact, in North America. I spoke to Shifa and Ahmed. Shifa is a student in Toronto, and Ahmed is a 26-year-old project manager at a hospital in the same city. Just a random sample of two Palestinians. So I just like to invoke that now. So we'll listen first to Shifa's story.
Okay, thanks.
Last year, Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president, supposedly, has said that for him, Palestine is the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem, and that's it.
We do have like similar, in a way, we were thinking on the same page, my dad and I, and the older generations, how they see it is, I think they see this move, I don't think they see it as a bad move. They see it as just a way to sort of win over it's kind of our way of compromising and win over the international recognition. And I think most older generations, when you tell them about 1967 borders, obviously to them that's a huge compromise, and it means that the Palestinians in that area don't get their right to return. But you're talking about Palestinians that since the beginning, since 65 years ago, have not gotten anything from international community. So they're not really expecting anything from Abbas or the UN in general. So this is all just politics and talking. But the only good news that came out of it, the only thing that we saw as being good from it, is that we were just out there. So it's just a way of changing ideologies and shifting the discourse. But other than that, I think nobody really took it seriously. I mean, the 1967 borders is not really on the ground taken seriously by Israel, let alone why should the Palestinians take it seriously,
How has your identity developed as a Palestinian? And exactly to your ability to discern it, what's happened over the last few years and decades with regard to the Palestinian identity for those in exile?
Right. I mean, a couple of years ago, it was very, very difficult to even mention that you were Palestinian, because either it was disregarded as something that didn't exist. It's after you leave the elementary school system. It's really after that, after you leave high school, because when you're there, I told you earlier, Harry, when I told you about the story of one of my teachers who ripped up my sister's paper because it mentioned Palestine, and it was a paper for the Holocaust, and it didn't disregard the Holocaust, neither did it justify the Holocaust, but her mentioning of Palestine resulted in the paper being ripped apart by the teacher, and he bragged about it in front of the class. And that was, for me, that was a huge injustice, and I tried to hold him accountable, and he ended up apologizing in front of the class.
So that's a story from Shifa. Now, I just want to give a bit of background onto what is the situation with the Palestinian refugees. Well, there are almost 2 million Palestinian refugees in Jordan, almost 500,000 in Syria, though of course many of them are having to flee because of what's going on there today. And in the West Bank in Gaza, there are internal refugees, if you like, of about 1.7 million. In Lebanon, also again, almost 500,000. Now, across the world in total, there is, even according to the BBC, which is most inclined to give a conservative estimate, more than 6 million, many people say 6.5 million Palestinian refugees across the world. And even inside Palestine, or inside certainly the international solidarity movement, those that try to campaign for justice for the Palestinians in Western countries, this issue of the right of return, to what extent can it ever be fulfilled when there is a solution to the conflict, is one of the hottest and most touchy topics, if you will. So anyway, let's now hear from Ahmed, the 26-year-old project manager.
Okay.
My situation is, or rather the situation of my generation is likely a bit different than what we've been hearing so far, in that we have less of a connection to the homeland, so to speak, than our parents would have. I mean, my mother was born before 1948. She, as young as she was, like maybe a year or two old, Palestine existed. And before the start of all the issues that we've experienced since then. And she's had a direct connection to a family member, parents, uncles, aunts, etc., who remember life before the Nakba. But I don't. So it's Palestinian life in the West is always a a very delicate balancing act between trying to keep sort of the ancestral identity alive while trying to establish a personal identity that is based on something tangible rather than something conceptual, as in sort of Palestine, the homeland, the right of return, and so on. I think the right of return is a very important idea, even to my generation, despite us not knowing very much about Palestine, because it's I guess it's a philosophical claim to something that was taken from us unjustly, and to forget about it or to let it fall by the wayside, even while building a life elsewhere, is sort of a tacit recognition of what most Palestinians will view as a blatant theft of land. So I think we keep that in front of mind, and it's I guess really the most important issue for us in the Palestine-Israel conflict, just because it keeps the memory of the injustice that was done in 1948 and then in 1967, and you could probably list off a number of years afterwards. It keeps that memory alive and keeps the situation from devolving into something that I would say the Israelis probably wanted to devolve to, which is quote-unquote facts on the ground. Well, my maternal grandparents lived in Gaza. I believe my grandfather was an agricultural engineer there, educated in the University of Jerusalem, and my mother and her family lived in Gaza really until she went to university, and back then that was quite young, what we would consider the 10th grade in high school. She went to university in Egypt, and then took a job as a dentist in the Emirates. My father was born in the West Bank and lived there until he went to university in Baghdad, and then similarly took a job as a dentist in the Emirates. And that's where my parents met and where I was born. So because of the sort of the political and legal instability from the perspective of an expat, my parents decided, well, let's try Canada. This is a place where you can immigrate to, you can become a citizen. It's a place where we could build a more stable home than the Emirates. And so we immigrated in the early 90s, and we stayed here for a few years until my father decided that perhaps business was better in the Emirates after all. So they moved back, and then I came back here for university. And because again the sort of the identity struggle throughout my life, I've been a Palestinian living in the Emirates, a place where I don't technically belong. And then also in Canada, a place where I belong probably to a greater degree, but again, not very much. So of the three, given the physical barriers to living in Palestine, the I guess you could say social barriers of living in the Emirates, and then I guess you could say the cultural barrier of living in Canada. Canada seemed to be the more conducive of the three to building a life. There are some environments in Canada where I am comfortable saying I'm Palestinian, but from a passport perspective, I'm also Jordanian, so that tends to be my default go-to if I'm.
And how did you end up with a Jordanian passport?
Because my father was from the West Bank, he was one of those who received the Jordanian passport from the Jordanian government when the West Bank was under the stewardship of Jordan.
So that's just a couple of stories of Palestinian refugees in the diaspora, what's known as the diaspora outside of Palestine proper. And I think that for me, having obviously done the world tour in recent weeks, having travelled around the world and seen Palestinians randomly all over the world, for me it really brings home the gravity and profundity of the tragedy which has been visited on the Palestinians. And the issue of the right of return is so contentious. And one of the reasons why, Kathleen, as I'm sure many people will know in fact, is that if, let's say, 6 million Palestinians return to what was once the Holy Land, what is now Israel plus the occupied territories, or historic Palestine, that would mean that there is no longer a Jewish majority state, and therefore there is no longer a Jewish state, and therefore there's no longer an Israel. And so many people refer to this as seeing the fulfillment proper of the right of return for all Palestinians would be the destruction of Israel. And so it's a very, very, very contentious issue, and it's in a way one of the most historic and practical obstacles to resolving the conflict.
Mm-hmm. You say it's one of the it's one of the biggest obstacles to resolving this issue. You think it is one of the biggest obstacles? Because I think that there's no way the Israelis are going to allow Palestinians in the diaspora to return back to their land. There's no way. It can't be done. I think they're definitive. I mean, that's never going to happen.
I think that also the point is that 6 million of them won't want to return anyway, but the point is about whether the right exists and then whether separately it's fulfilled or not. I mean, I don't think Israel will let anyone do anything unless it's in Israel's interest. There always has to be a matter of forcing Israel to abide by a standard set by the world or by some entity. But it is very important because as I said in the interview with Shifa, last year Mahmoud Abbas said, for us, Palestine is 1967 plus East Jerusalem, and my family was from somewhere inside Israel, and I'd like to go and visit it. That's my right, but I don't want to live there, or I can't live there. So, in a way, this was taken as he abrogated his right of return. And being the principal representative of the Palestinian people, this was taken as this was indeed a massive assertion. And so, certainly in Gaza, the Hamas-led government said that this was a dangerous way of talking about the right of return and the resolution of the conflict. So it really is a massively important issue. So that's why I wanted to bring it to people's attention.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't saying it wasn't important. I think it is very important. I just don't see I can't imagine the Israelis ever allowing it, and we know they won't, but nonetheless it is an issue that we should be aware of. Right.
I agree, and this is one of the biggest problems with, it's one of the biggest problems that some people believe with the Palestine solidarity movement, that they want to see, not all of them, of course, I'll be very specific and scientific, but there is a large cohort of people, of Westerners, etc., in the international Palestinian solidarity movement who want to see the right of return absolutely fulfilled. And as you just said, it's very difficult to imagine that ever happening. So it's about where you set the bar for resolution and etc. And that's what Shifa talked about with the the 1967 and East Jerusalem story as being something to get some sort of strategic attention, etc. So it's all very kind of a grey area, actually, but it's one of the most important grey areas.
One of them. Okay, thank you, Harry, for bringing that to us. Now we're going to take a break, and when we come back from the break, we're going to have an interview with Issa, who is a coordinator for the Youth Against Settlements, and that's located in H2, which is Hebron. So when we come back from the break, we'll have our interview with Issa. So join us on the other side. We'll be right back.
Are you fascinated by the Middle East, but worried that U.S. foreign policy may lead yet to another war? Do you care about civil rights? For the past 30 years, the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs has brought its readers the real news, minus the corporate media spin. Read about Palestinians trying to survive the world's largest occupation. Learn how your hard-earned tax dollars fund that illegal occupation. Find out how much your members of Congress has received from pro-Israel PACs, and much, much more. Visit the Washington Report's website, www.wrmea.org, or call 888-881-5861 to request a free sample copy. Better yet, subscribe. It's only $29 for 9 issues. Mention Palestine today and get a bonus gift.
Can you smell the aroma of sweet, delicious fruit and flaky, melt-in-your-mouth crust? What is that? It's Cobblermania. Cobblermania is a specialty dessert company founded several years ago that sells delicious fruit cobblers that are baked daily and sweetened with diabetic-friendly agave. Agave, you ask? Yes. It's like sugar, but not sugar, and better than sugar. Cobblermania cobblers are sold at the Torrance, Hollywood, Culver City, San Dimas, Marina Del Rey Farmers Market. Also, apple and peach are sold daily at the Golden Bird in Los Angeles. You know Golden Bird that sells the fried chicken? At 83rd and Western, daily apple and peach cobblers. And yes, guess what? They're coming to the Pomona Fairplex Truck Fest. In fact, they're there right now, Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Gate 1. Some of the favorites: peach, apple, mango, blueberry peach, blackberry, blackberry, apple, white peach. If you go to the Pomona Truck Fest Gate 1 on Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and mention me, Kathleen, you'll get something special. You don't want to miss it. I've had them. They're delicious.
Playgrounds for Palestine is a non-for-profit 501c3 organization dedicated to upholding the Palestinian child's rights to play. This is a right enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. We operate through a volunteer board and staff, the generosity of our supporters, and a lot of heart. To date, Playgrounds for Palestine has constructed 15 playgrounds in Palestine, as well as refugee camps in Lebanon and Syria. To contribute to this most worldly cause, please go to our website at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org or send a check to Playgrounds for Palestine, P.O. Box 559, Yardley, Pennsylvania 19067 at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org.
Hi, this is Kathleen of The Kathleen Welsh Show, and you know what? We've been on a full year, and it's been a fabulous run, and you're going to want to join us. We talk about everything involving politics. We cover the economy with my expert, Dr. Ravi Batra. We talk about healthcare. We discuss taxes and immigration and jobs or the lack thereof. These are the domestic issues. Oh, did I also mention that we discuss mass incarceration, what's going on with the drug war? That's an important issue, the drug war. So, you're going to want to join us every Wednesday from 2 to 3 right here on KCAA. We also talk about Monsanto poisoning our foods. We also have my expert on the Middle East. See if we talk about international issues too. So don't forget to join us every Wednesday right here from 2 to 3 on KCAA, The Kathleen Welsh Show. It's worth your time. Come join us.
The most diversified radio station on the dial, AM 1050, KCAA.
Welcome back, welcome back. You are joining us on Palestine Today. I'm delighted to be with you today, and Harry is too. Hi, Harry. You're delighted to have our guest, Issa?
I'm still here.
Okay, great. And we're going to have an interview coming up in a few seconds with Issa Amro, who is the coordinator for Youth Against Settlements, and he's located in the West Bank, H2 area, which is Hebron. And we're going to talk about his Open Shuhada Street campaign, which is a campaign that challenges settlers and colonists in the Hebron region. So do we have
him yet, actually?
Yeah, I think so. We have him. I think Brett is talking to him. So while, the engineers setting this up for a second, I want to talk about a few things that the Youth Against Settlements campaign is preparing for the Obama visit, which is to take place in, I think, March 26th is when Obama is going to visit Israel. He's only going to spend 2 hours in the West Bank, actually. He's not going to be there for the entire, for a very long time at all. Okay, now we...
Yeah, Mahmoud Abbas, in an interview with RT Russia Today, tried to emphasize and aggrandize Obama's visit, saying, we're picking you up from the airport and it's an official visit and he'll do official things while he's visiting us to try and provide some more, prestige to it. But as you said, it's just 2 hours. I think most of the world's attention will be on what Obama is doing. It is enormously important. The point is, why is he not going to Gaza if he doesn't go? And we don't think that he's going to go.
And you can't get much done in 2 hours. In fact, I saw recently a billboard on my Facebook page that says, you may be waiting to get through for 2 hours. You know what I mean? What can you do in 2 hours? Not much, right?
It takes 6 hours just to get to work if you're an average Palestinian living in the West Bank because of the checkpoint. It's a nightmare, and Obama has been largely complicit, politically speaking, in this checkpointing and settling system by not speaking up against it or doing anything about it. And has, of course, as people know, been encouraging Israel to continue its trajectory of colonization by continuing and increasing not just diplomatic and political support, but also economic support. So the whole thing is a real mess. So what he does do when he's there is of massive significance.
The whole thing is a real mess. Well, we've got Issa now on the line. He is the coordinator for Youth Against Settlements. He's from the West Bank and the H2 region, which is Hebron. So, Issa, are you with me?
Yes, I am with you now.
Thank you very much.
Nice to speak to you.
It's me, Kathleen Wells, and also Harry Fear. We're delighted to have you with us today on Palestine Today. So talk to me about your program. You're the coordinator for Youth Against Settlements. Give me some specifics about the Youth Against Settlements.
First, I am very happy to talk to you. I think it's very important to tell to the American public about what Palestinians are doing to get rid of the occupation. We are, as Palestinians, organizing hundreds of nonviolent demonstrations to get rid of the occupation. Youth Against Settlement is a Palestinian non-partisan national group working to end...
could you slow down a little bit? I missed that part. You said Youth Against Settlements is a what? Could you repeat that?
It's a Palestinian non-partisan youth group, a national group in Palestine working to end the Israeli occupation and dismantle all settlements in West Bank using the non-violence methodology as a principle and as a tactic, to end the Israeli occupation.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, you say it's a non-violent group. Tell me some of the tactics that you employ exactly.
We are pure non-violence strategies. Today, for example, we had a lecture and a workshop for the kids in our center in Tel Rumeda to remind them about Martin Luther King methodology to get, the rights to all Americans, the same rights, and it was amazing workshop. This is one kind of our non-violence activities. We do lectures, we do workshops, presentations, we screen films. We do a lot of non-violence activities as demonstrations, protests. We are organizing Open Shuhada Street campaign. It's an international campaign, and the campaign is about to organize activities in all over the world. Calling to reopen Shuhada Street, which was closed by the Israeli occupation after 1994, after Baruch Goldstein went into the mosque and killed 29 Muslims when they were praying, the early morning praying. After that massacre, the Israeli government closed and shut off the complete old city in Hebron. Many shops were closed, many streets, many markets. So we launched before 4 years a campaign to reopen these shops and streets and to bring normal life to Hebron, and it's very successful campaign. We have Samidun campaign, Steadfast in English. We go to the Palestinian families who are living very close to the Israeli settlements. We try to organize their homes, to clean the gardens, to take off all the barbed wire, the fences which the army installed around the houses. We try to protect the families and to make solidarity with the families. As well, we are doing a lot of training for the activities for the youth, especially the university students, to go and learn about non-violence and to do more recruitment. So a lot of activities. We do tours, political tours. We speak to delegations from all over the world about what is happening in Hebron to increase the awareness about Hebron. Today, our kids in Tel Rumeda wrote letters, and we will give it to our president to give it to Mr. Obama when he visited him in Ramallah. If he gives our president enough time to show our our interest in peace and to show how the Palestinian kids are asking Obama to open Shuhada Street in Hebron, to open the closed shops, closed markets, to stop the Israeli settler violence, because we are under the aggression of the Israeli fanatic settler violence who are living in Hebron, to let us visit Jerusalem and visit the Dome of the Rock, to give us our freedom. Many kids wrote today, we want to be equal as all the kids in the world. This is the letters which our kids wrote today. This kind of activities we do.
So actually, if I understand correctly, Hebron is one of the worst affected cities in the West Bank by the Israeli forces. Am I right?
Yes, Hebron is the micro sample of occupation. You see closed shops, closed markets, closed apartments, closed street, apartheid street, Shuhada Street. Palestinians are not allowed to drive. They are not allowed even to walk in this street. Only settlers. I walk on the cemetery, and my friends, my international friends and Israeli friends, they walk on the street. It's an obvious apartheid policy in Hebron. Many Palestinian families, they use the back door. Many Palestinian families, they use the rooftops to get into their homes because the main doors were closed by the Israeli army, just like, what was happening in the past. We feel the apartheid policy, discrimination, humiliation obvious in Hebron. And unfortunately, the settlers in Hebron are supported by the Israeli soldiers, by the Israeli government. As breaking the silence it's an Israeli group saying that there is no accountability on the Israeli settlers and on the Israeli soldiers for their human rights violations. I am, as a Palestinian, I am under the Israeli occupation law, which is the military law, and the Israeli settlers who are living 5 meters from my house are under the Israeli civilian law. And a huge difference between both. This is the main problem. Not only that, they don't enforce the Israeli civilian law on the settlers. The settlers, they do whatever they want. They have guns, they burn houses, they steal properties. So it's very, very bad situation in Hebron. I sent many letters to the American embassy in Palestine and Israel to ask them to bring Mr. Obama to see what the apartheid policy in Hebron, because I know that the President Obama used to be a human rights defender. He knows what we mean. He knows what are we talking about. When we organized the workshop today, the main title of this workshop was that King is coming back to life from Hebron. Martin Luther King is coming back to life from Hebron. This is what we wanted to say to Mr. Obama. We wanted to remind him about Martin Luther King activities. We wanted to remind him about I Have a Dream speech. We say in Palestine and Hebron especially that we as Palestinians, we have a dream. We have a dream of freedom. We have a dream to be equal with all the human beings in the world. This is what we want. It's not about politics. It's not about interest. It's not about that to eat hummus or fool in Bear's house or to give few minutes to the Palestinian side. If he wants to be equal, he should, share his time with all and with everyone and go to the most problematic areas in Palestine. If Obama comes to Hebron, I think the situation will be easier to us as Palestinians living very hard daily life as Palestinians.
Okay, Issa, we're going to take a break, but we're going to keep you on the line because I want us to finish this interview with you. I want to get some more information for my listeners. So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be...
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Issa. We'll be right back. Thanks a lot.
Are you fascinated by the Middle East, but worried that U.S. foreign policy may lead yet to another war? Do you care about civil rights? For the past 30 years, the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs has brought its readers the real news, minus the corporate media spin. Read about Palestinians trying to survive the world's largest occupation. Learn how your hard-earned tax dollars fund that illegal occupation. Find out how much your members of Congress has received from pro-Israel PACs, and much, much more. Visit the Washington Report's website, www.wrmea.org, or call 888-881-5861 to request a free sample copy. Better yet, subscribe. It's only $29 for 9 issues. Mention Palestine today and get a bonus gift.
Can you smell the aroma of sweet, delicious fruit and flaky, melt-in-your-mouth crust? What is that? It's Cobblermania. Cobblermania is a specialty dessert company founded several years ago that sells delicious fruit cobblers that are baked daily and sweetened with diabetic-friendly agave. Agave, you ask? Yes. It's like sugar, but not sugar, and better than sugar. Cobblermania cobblers are sold at the Torrance, Hollywood, Culver City, San Dimas, Marina Del Rey Farmers Market. Also, apple and peach are sold daily at the Golden Bird in Los Angeles. You know Golden Bird that sells the fried chicken? At 83rd and Western, daily apple and peach cobblers. And yes, guess what? They're coming to the Pomona Fairplex Truck Fest. In fact, they're there right now, Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Gate 1. Some of the favorites: peach, apple, mango, blueberry peach, blackberry, blackberry, apple, white peach. If you go to the Pomona Truck Fest Gate 1 on Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and mention me, Kathleen, you'll get something special. You don't want to miss it. I've had them. They're delicious.
Playgrounds for Palestine is a non-for-profit 501c3 organization dedicated to upholding the Palestinian child's rights to play. This is a right enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. We operate through a volunteer board and staff, the generosity of our supporters, and a lot of heart. To date, Playgrounds for Palestine has constructed 15 playgrounds in Palestine, as well as refugee camps in Lebanon and Syria. To contribute to this most worldly cause, please go to our website at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org or send a check to Playgrounds for Palestine, P.O. Box 559, Yardley, Pennsylvania 19067 at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org.
Real talk for real people, right here in the Inland Empire. We are 1050 AM, KCAA.
Welcome back to Palestine today. We are joined by our guest, Harry. We're joined by our guest, Issa Amro, who is talking to us about his program in the West Bank, in the region of H2, which is Hebron. So, Issa, let me ask you a question. Can you tell KCAA listeners and those listening online, give us some specifics. You mentioned one thing about Palestinians having to enter their homes through the back door. Give us some other specifics as to the distinctions between how Israelis live and how Palestinians live.
Something very important. We live in a very poor community. The unemployment percentage is more than 70% in H2 in Hebron, but the settlers, they are all completely covered by the American money, because the majority of the money which is coming to the Hebron settlers is coming from Hebron Fund from the United States. Something very important: we are not allowed to drive. If I need an ambulance, I need to call Red Crescent. Two phone calls inside Red Cross, and Red Cross calls the army, and the army calls the checkpoint. So 5 phone calls in series to get an ambulance for me. But the settlers, they have their own ambulance inside the area. They can drive, they can live normally. The water, we are dying from the shortage of water. Settlers, they have 24/7 water, and they get 17 times more than us water. Electricity, they don't lose the electrical current at all. They have electricity always. No, us, we lose electricity. Many other things, they live in a fair life, in the contrary of the Palestinians. I pass 3-4 checkpoints per day. They don't pass one single checkpoint to get to their homes. The soldiers, they detain me at a checkpoint, and they detain many other friends of mine and many other Palestinian kids at the checkpoints for many hours. But the settlers, they don't, and the Israelis, they don't pass checkpoints. They can go all over in West Bank and Israel. I'm not allowed to go to Jerusalem. I am blacklisted. I can't go to pray in the Dome of the Rock. I can't visit Al-Aqsa Mosque because I am blacklisted, and many other Palestinians are blacklisted, and they can't get permits. The settlers, they can go wherever they want. Hundreds and thousands of visitors, they come from all over Israel.
They come from
Hebron. They come all over Israel, yeah, as visitors. They come to visit Hebron and visit the Israeli settlers in Hebron. But we don't have any visitors coming from outside. Something very, very important. I am, as a Palestinian, I am under the Israeli military law. The settlers who are living next door to my house are under the Israeli civilian law. And a huge difference between both. Something very important. They arrest our kids. Yesterday they arrested five Palestinian kids. They were beaten in front of us by the Israeli soldiers. Israeli settlers, they threw stones, they burn houses, they burn Palestinian land, they attack mosques, they attack churches and all over West Bank. The Israeli soldiers do nothing to stop them from doing this to the Palestinians. So it's obvious discrimination, it's obvious, let's say, apartheid policy and humiliation in Palestine.
So how do Palestinians actually cope with this? I mean, just hearing you say that, it almost sounds like hell on earth.
Yeah, how we cope, honestly, it's not easy. It's very hard. With me, I got many training to transform my anger power to positive power. But as for today, we were, I told you, we had for the kids a seminar and a workshop about Martin Luther King. When we took the kids outside the center to play with them with the horses and with a little bit of toys, settlers came and they worked hard to take us away from the land where we were working and playing and taking fun. Soldiers came. One of the soldiers, I heard him telling one of the settlers, beat them up and I will protect you. I told the soldier, what are you talking about? Take off your army uniform and join him. Itbayesh in Hebrew, be ashamed. What are you doing? You are just violating the Israeli law and the international law. But this is widely happening in Palestine. Soldiers, they protect the settlers during their attack. They encourage them. Even soldiers, they attack us by themselves. It's not only settlers. So how we cope? It's not easy. Honestly, it's very hard to cope. That Palestinians, we can say that they are the most tolerant people to react to the settler violence and to the Israeli occupation. Now we are talking about a third intifada, a non-violent third intifada. As Palestinians, we were born non-violent, and we are non-violent, and we are always non-violent. The first intifada, it was completely non-violent intifada. Now the Palestinian prisoners inside the Israeli jails with the administrative detention, without taking them to judges, they put them in jails without any reasons. They are in hunger strike, and they are just, putting their life in danger of
Okay, Issa,
to the Israeli aggression.
Issa, you know what? We only have one more minute. We're coming to a close, but I'm going to invite you back on Palestine today because I want the listeners to really get a feel and understanding of what you're saying. We are talking about settlers who live right next door to Palestinians, and yet they're operating under different laws. That's what we're talking about. People living right next door. Yeah. So, we're coming to a close. So, Issa, I want to thank you very much. Harry, I want to thank you so much. Yeah, Harry, I want to thank you. But, Issa, I'm going to invite you back because I really want people to hear what you're saying, okay? So, I'm going to invite you back soon. And stay on the line. This is Palestine Today. I'm Kathleen. Hi, Harry. Say bye, Harry.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for your attention. Have a great week. Hear you next week.
Okay, and it's my fault about the daylight saving times. My bad, my fault. We're going to have it perfect next week, and we're going to invite Issa back. Thank you, Issa. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. You'll be on again. This is Palestine Today. Thank you. Join us next week. Thanks. Bye.
It's our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
No matter your faith or community, this is a crime against humanity. Gaza turned into a prison camp. Apartheid won't divide the West Bank.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
We'll break down the wall.
Freedom for Palestine. Demand justice for all. Freedom for Palestine.
Enough illegal occupation, violence and racial segregation. All religious communities unite. Freedom is a human right.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
We'll break down the wall. Freedom.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 a.m., the station that leaves no listener behind.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Chris Earl Phillips. For this afternoon, 20% chance of showers, mostly cloudy, gradually becoming sunny, and a high near 63. Tonight, mostly clear, low around 44. Tomorrow, sunny, and a high of 76. Tomorrow night, clear, low around 46. On Monday, sunny, and a high near 80. Monday night, mostly clear with a low around 46. On Tuesday, sunny, and a high of 82. Tuesday night, mostly clear, and a low around 48. That's your weather for this hour from the station that leaves no listener behind, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, KCAA.
This is the KCAA Community Calendar. The 8th Annual Teen College and Career Fair is Wednesday, March 27th at the De Anza Community and Teen Center, 1405 South Fern Avenue in Ontario from 6 to 8 p.m. This event will give teens the chance to meet with local businesses that employ youth in their organizations. Local college representatives will be on hand to offer information regarding educational opportunities. Teens will be able to research everything from part-time summer jobs to future career opportunities. This event is for teens ages 13 to 19. For more information, please call 909-395-2030. Ontario is bringing community emergency response training to the Ontario Convention Centre April 13th, 20th, and 27th. Go online and register at handsonInlandEmpire.org. And that's your KCAA Community Calendar.
Earth, sky. You know those annoying bugs smashed on your windshield? Just be glad that insects today are considerably smaller than some of their prehistoric ancestors.
For example, imagine a 9-foot-long millipede, or a dragonfly with a wingspan as wide as a seagull's.